Hello my sweets! Today I'm going to teach you how to make a fake anime video. We're going to start from the beginning and take this really slow, and I'll walk you through all of the compositing tricks that I've learned to make your picture look like a real anime. So right here I have this list of what the video is going to have. The characters will be in side view. It'll consist of about 3 layers. 2 characters will be in a shot, a male and a female. The background will be an abstract type since I'm not doing a background tutorial right now. And what would an anime video be without some anime speech? So a dramatic line, this is what it's going to be. And the main color of the picture is going to be red. Okay, so let's start by making a new layer. We want 1920 by 1080. And the reason I did not do an animation template is because they actually cut off a little bit of it around the edges, and that's really annoying for me. So I just make a regular canvas, and then I add animation stuff to it. So first things first, let's sketch out our characters. So this video isn't really a how to draw characters tutorial, it's more of how to make a fake anime tutorial. So you should have a little bit of drawing knowledge before you go into this. So all we're going to do is draw 2 characters in a side view. Really simple stuff. Alright, we have our first guy here. Let's make sure we have the proportions right by clicking on this flip canvas button here. When we flip it, we can see that it looks a little funky, so let's make a few changes. Okay, much better. Character number 1 sketch is done. Let's work on the second one. Alright, so now we have our 2 character sketches. Let's refine these sketches one at a time. With these final sketches, we want it to be really clear and clean, because after this we're going to follow these lines exactly and put in the vector line work. Okay, now that we have our sketches done, it's time to do the line work for these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Edit tab and click Change Image Resolution, and I'm going to change it to 144. This will make everything larger so that the lines are a whole lot clearer. Then I'm going to make a vector layer and go over to this Figure tab and use the Curve tool and start making curves to form the line work. I'm going to use this, let's see, what size should I use? See, most anime, it doesn't have really thick lines, but neither are the lines really thin. I think a 5 is a good setting, so I'm going to go through and do the line work in time lapse. So I'll see you when it's done. Okay, my screen recorder messed up a little, so I lost some of the line work. But as you can see, it's all done. And I'm using this vector tool to fix up some of the lines here. Okay, so the line work for Ray is now done. Let's make a folder, keep all this organized, and we'll call this line. We'll put it in there. We'll call this sketch and put it in there as well. Now you might have noticed I did not do the lines for the eye or the mouth. That's because these layers are going to be moving. So all that you see right here, this is going to be static. It's not going to move. But the eye and the mouth, those are going to move later on. So now that Ray's done, let's hide this layer and go on to Mira's line work. And hopefully my screen recorder doesn't mess up this time. Okay, so the line work here is about done, but as you can see we have a few points here, like with the ear and the neck and part of the hair, where just altering the line and trying to pull it up doesn't exactly work. So to get rid of these lines, we're going to go to the eraser and click Vector Eraser. Now this box should be checked, and you should have it set to erase up to intersection, and then just click on the line and it will erase up to the line that we want it to. So this is a really great feature because it does not leave any eraser residue behind, whereas with the other erasers sometimes it'll leave a residue. So it's best to use the vector eraser when you're doing a vector layer. Alright, let's organize this into a folder like we did for Ray. New folder, double click to change the name, and drag these in. Alright, now we have the line work for Ray and Mira. So now it's time to start coloring it in. So we know that we want the main color scheme to be red, but that doesn't necessarily have to affect the colors on these characters. So let's start with Ray. Colors go in a regular raster layer, and we're just going to color him normally. Let's go to this tab here. This will give us some nice skin tones to work with, and we'll just fill it in. I have a thing for blue hair. I don't know why, I just love blue hair. And a funny thing about these videos is that I will design a character, and then like later I'll be watching an anime or something and I'll realize that I just recreated the character from that anime without knowing it. My subconscious makes me plagiarize. So if these characters look like somebody you know, I'm sorry, but I can't help it. Alright, let's do Mira. Pink hair for girls. Yay, anime cliche. She's starting to look like me. Let's disable the paper layers since the collar of this is white, and we want to make sure it's filling up with white. The trick to making anime style colors is do not have it be full saturation. Don't put it right at the edge here. We want to go into the gray zone just a little bit. Mira goes behind Ray. I'm not quite satisfied with her colors, so let's keep working with it. Let's give her a very dark shirt for contrast. I think that looks better. Alright, now we have the colors for the two characters. Let's now change the line color. Right click, selection from layer, create selection. Make a new layer so that you can mess around with the colors. And since the main color of this animation is going to be red, color the lines red. This is sort of like a color hold, and it's what makes the difference between an amateurish looking animation and a more professional one, since professional companies, they tend to use these colored lines a lot. And if we like it, we can combine to the layer below. But that does change it to a raster layer, so you may want to make a backup before you do that. Let's do the same with Ray. Duplicate for backup, combine, and hide the original. Alright, now we have these two, and I'm probably going to enlarge them. So let's enlarge them now. Just select the layer, Control T, and now we can resize them. Alright, now what we want to do is we want to go to the Window tab and click on Timeline. Now I am in Clip Studio Paint EX, but this will still work if you're using Pro, so I'm going to set it to 24 frames, since that's what people using Pro would be working with. Alright, now we have a timeline. Let's make two folders for Ray. One folder will be for the eyes, and the other folder will be for the mouth. Alright, these are our animation layers, and these are going to go in front of everything else. And now we can reactivate the sketch layer so that we can see where to put the eyes and the mouth. But before we go on, we do want to make sure that this is a nice red color scheme, so we're going to go to Edit, Tonal Correction, and Color Balance. And we're going to move this line over to red a little bit more, and this one to magenta. And then we're going to go to Tonal Correction again and change the brightness and saturation. This is going to be a dramatic lighting shot, so we want it to look really dark and dramatic. High contrast. Let's do the same to Mira. Edit, Tonal Correction, Color Balance. Red and magenta. In her case, we're going to lower the saturation a little bit since her pink red hair is really popping. Okay, now we have a dark scene, and you can see how these characters just blend with the color when you add in the dark red background. It looks like they're really there. Alright, let's set this back to white as we work on the eyes. So for the eyes, we're going to put a folder into this animation layer and then come over to the timeline, open up Ray, and right click the line with the eyes on it, and here you see one. Okay, now we can draw in this. So let's add a vector layer, and let's get to work. So since he's going to have green eyes, we're going to use a dark green line. Also, his eyes are going to be fully filled in, so we can use a pretty thick line here. Alright, let's change the color to the regular line color and go back to a 5 as we make his eyebrows. Alright, now we can hide the sketch and see his eyes. Then we're going to make a regular raster layer and use it to fill in some color. We might have to hide some layers as we do this so that the colors will be nice and clean. There, one part of the eye done. So this layer is just going to be our base color. So let's color in his eyes and the white of the eyes. Okay, that's eye number one. Let's duplicate it. Now we have 2, so we'll go back to this line and click 2, and then we'll do Control T. Actually, we will select some of this, and we'll make sure that we've selected the whole folder, not just part of it. And then we will we'll just squash it down a little bit. And that's our second layer. Now our third layer is going to be an actual new image, so we're not going to duplicate anything for this. We're going to turn on onion skin and make the eye come down a little bit. We want it to come halfway over the iris here. And the hook at the back can come down a little more, and the lower lid comes up just a little. Then we will go back to the 5 size and make another eyebrow coming down a little bit lower this time. Alright, then the base color layer. We will hide these 2 layers as we start filling this in so that nothing interferes. Then we bring them back. Oh, I almost forgot the iris. That's a pretty important thing, so let's go in and make that. And then we finish up with the base color. Let's grab some color from a previous layer and keep working. Alright, now we see that his eye is starting to close. Nice. The 4th layer is pretty simple. It's going to be fully closed. Let's grab some color and do this closed eye. The eyebrow is way lower this time. And we have some eye folds here. And then we can do our simple fill on a raster layer. Turn off onion skin and see how it looks. Alright, that looks really good. Now we have to go through and do some shading. Oops. So let's save our work so that we don't lose it, because I'm always losing my work when I forget to save. Alright, and then we will use this magic wand tool to select just the center part of the eye, and we're going to work in this new layer and shade his eye in. Make another layer over this vector one and put in a highlight. Alright, we can actually duplicate this shade layer and take it to the second one, because the second one is just an altered version of the first. and we can drag it down a little and resize so that it fits nicely and looks just like the first one. We will probably have to make a new shine, so let's just go ahead and do that. Okay. Okay, now the eyes are done, and we can work on the mouth. The first frame for the mouth will be pretty easy, since it's just his mouth closed. That'll be just one line. So let's make a single vector layer, activate it on the timeline, pick up the color of the regular line work, and make this happen. Yay, Ray has a mouth. Alright, I'll make a new folder for layer 2, activate layer 2 on the timeline, and put in a vector layer so that we can draw his mouth open. So I'm just going to go through and do some basic mouth shapes. Alright, now we have all of Ray's animation done, and you've seen the process, so I'm going to do Mira in time-lapse. I will see you when she's done. Okay, now we have our two characters done. We have the animation finished for them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shade in the bodies. So let's hide the mirror layer and look only at Ray. So what we're going to do first is select the color, right click and duplicate layer, and then we're going to alter the colors here so that it's a whole lot brighter. So we're going to turn the brightness and saturation up, and then we're going to use a line tool and the transparency and start erasing. So what we've done here is we have made an automatic shine layer, and this is going to help us a whole lot. It's going to make this part of the shading a whole lot faster. So we're just going to go around the edges and use this transparency color to cut off little bits of it. And then we'll just take the fill tool and fill everything else with the transparency color. Actually, we should probably hide these so that there are no errors. And now we automatically have some shading. So this is a really easy way to do shading for your fake anime. And some of these edges aren't quite right, so what I'm going to do is just select the color and sharpen them up a little bit. And then we can select this color layer and make a new layer, set it to overlay, and we're going to try a dark purple, low saturation for the shading. So now we're going to shade in the darkest points on him. Again, hide the eyes and mouth so that there are no problems. Then fill all this in. Alright, that's all the shading we need for Ray. Let's go and do the same to Mira. I'm going to do it in time lapse this time. Alright, shading is complete. Now it's time to work on the background. So in our list here we see that we're going to have the abstract style background with the main color being red. So let's see if there's anything in the Clip Studio backgrounds that we can use. This looks promising. let's add a few overlays to this to make it interesting. All you have to do is put in a second background and turn on a different blend mode. Then we can combine the layers and start changing up the color balance. We want it to be really red. We can also change the tone curve. Perfect, a very dramatic background. Okay, now we want to make a new layer in front of everything and use the Airbrush tool and get a pretty low saturation red color. This is somewhere in the middle, and just make a mist at the top and bottom of the screen. Oops. Okay, we can alter the blend mode for this. We could set it to multiply or overlay, but since it's going to change when we export this, we probably just want to have it be a normal layer. So just play around with this a little. Lower the opacity so that it doesn't stand out quite as much. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to render each of these layers one by one with transparency. So to do that, let's say we want to render Ray. We're going to hide the paper layer, and we're also going to hide the eyes and mouth. Actually, we're going to just hide the mouth, and we're going to drag all these frames together because we only want to get the movement of his eyes. We'll get the movement of his mouth later as a separate layer and put it together in some sort of compositing program. So I'm going to go through and render all this stuff separately. So now we have all of our files here, and what we're going to do is we're going to drag them into this Anime Studio document. You could just render everything in this Clip Studio Paint file, but since it's a little difficult to get everything put together nicely, not to mention that you can't do camera work here, I'm going to put everything into an Anime Studio file and do panning and animation there. So just select all of these PNG files and drag them into the Anime Studio document. Okay, everything's here. So let's make a group called Ray. Put everything from Ray in here. Okay, we're going to have two switch layers for Ray. One is main and one is mouth. Mouth layers go into mouth switch, and Ray layers go into main. Alright, let's do the same for Mira. Okay, my recorder messed up, so let's try this again. So I've decided that the animation should be about 6 seconds, so let's start on the panning work. I'm just going to move layers around to simulate cool camera movement. There, a nice 3D illusion. Okay, then it'll be time to go through and do the actual animation of the eyes and the mouth. So, big thing that we want to pay attention to here is we do not want them to blink at the same time. We don't want that. That'll look really, really unnatural. So when you do the blinking, make sure that they do not do it at the same time. The eyes close slowly and open very quickly. Also, don't have them blink too many times. I'm going to have Ray blink twice and Mira blink only once. Alright, I'm going to go into time lapse to do the mouth movement. Okay, now that we have the movement looking nice, we're going to render it. So I'm going to render this and come back when I'm ready for compositing. Okay, now I have our fully rendered video in this compositing program, and while this program does have a lot of cool features, what I'm doing here can most likely be done in any movie maker. So just drag 2 of these onto the timeline, and it's taking a minute to load. Loading. Okay, here we go. Now for the second one. Okay, for the one on the bottom, we're going to lower the opacity and we're going to blur it. We don't want to blur it too much. Alright, let's lower the opacity just a little bit more. We don't want the blur to be too pronounced. Okay, so this slight blur gives a nice anime effect to the video. If your video is too sharp, it won't look much like real anime, so we want to blur it just a little. Alright, and then this next trick I'm going to do is I'm going to get some free footage that I downloaded off the internet and overlay this over the other 2 videos. So it'll be basically like the blur effect we did for the last video. We're just going to add a blur effect and then lower the opacity by a whole lot. We don't want this effect to be very visible at all. I don't know why my voice is messed up today. Alright, let's see how that looks. Okay, we want it to be just a little bit lower. Okay, and now we render. And there it is. So that's how to make a fake anime. This video is for absolute beginners, but it has been a while since I made a tutorial, so please let me know what you thought of this. If I need to go slower or explain things more, let me know in the comments, and I will make sure my next tutorial is even better. So thank you for requesting this. A whole lot of people have been asking how I did my fake anime videos, and I hope this video is useful to you. Don't forget to be a sweet and subscribe and check out some of my other videos. I'll see you sweets later. Bye!